Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates. The Earth is located around 3.5 miles southeast of the Earth now. The solar wind is also Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody who is joining our show tonight, and thank you for being here. Welcome very much. Guys, we're going to start off this night as we have in the past. We're going to start off with a salute to the United States of America and the nation's national anthem. Would everybody please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh,
America's finest. The United States Army Barbershop Quartet appearing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. The Barbershop Quartet Convention hosts gave us the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Barbershop Quartet from the United States Army delivered our Star Spangled Banner. We appreciate that. We appreciate all of our young men and young women, and older men and older women, whatever, that are in the United States military, who are in whatever force you are in. It doesn't matter whether you're in the Army, the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the Space Force. It doesn't really matter. We're all in the service of your country. I want to thank all of our police officers and our firefighters and all of our allies around the world that help support us. God bless you all, and may you all return home to your families after your tours of duty end. God bless you all, and thank you all for your service. Folks, I keep running into police and firefighters and military personnel in uniform, and I've been thanking them for their service. I'm going to continue such. I want everybody to know that we are grateful for what they do. They lay their lives on the line every day to give us freedom. And more of our freedoms is just walking away. It's terrible. It really is. Now, folks, I have some things that I want to talk about before we get into earthquakes and Cascadia tonight. Lockport, New York. Over by the Erie Canal. There is a cave, underground cave system. It's called the Lockport Caves. And today there was an emergency there. A tourist boat capsized inside the Lockport Caves. Now I want to make it clear. The Lockport Cave water is only 4 to 6 feet deep in any one place. A total of 36 passengers were on board that boat that carried tourists in those underground caves, and it capsized earlier today. Currently, multiple emergency personnel are still on the scene at the Lockport Cave, New York location. The tour boat capsized inside the cave. Emergency crews have been diligently working to rescue multiple passengers. A total of 12 individuals had earlier been rescued so far. One person has been killed, and one person has been injured for a reported broken arm. The mayor's office said 28 visitors affiliated with Destination Niagara and one staff member were on board. 11 people were transported to an area hospital for minor injuries, and with the most severe being a broken arm. Only one fatality is under investigation. The mayor's office did not elaborate on that situation. The exact cause of the tour boat capsizing is currently unclear and again is under investigation. The company's website describes the excursion as a guided historic walking tour that includes a boat ride through the cave system, which was created about 150 years ago. Boat tours through the cave have been conducted since 1977, according to the site. The last time a boat collapsed there was in 2015. That's the latest from Lockport, New York. Now, we don't like to comment on this. This is it's still an event under investigation, and it's still underway. As we get more information on this, we will bring it to you. One of the other things I want to talk about is very important. It involves all the port cities, all the ports that deal with supplies being brought over from overseas, and the United States shipping out supplies and things from the United States. The organization that represents the port terminal operators said over the weekend that coordinated actions by dock workers led to a shutdown of cargo operations at the Port of Seattle. The Port of Seattle is not the only port where this is happening. All up and down the West Coast, from San Diego north into Los Angeles, San Francisco, and any other places up and down the West Coast. The Pacific Maritime Association stated in a tweet Saturday that disruptive actions by the International Longshore Warehouse Union, which represents the dock workers, have led to a stoppage of work at the port. Number one, what has happened? We had COVID. Okay? That made it a lot harder for people to be able to work. And as a result, fewer and fewer longshoremen were on duty at the ports. They tried to replace some of those workers that got sick, and yes, some had passed away. But they've never been up to snuff since. They've had a hard time pulling in people, and it's been very hard for them. And now we're facing another longshoreman strike. This has been on the docket for many years now. The Longshoremen's Union is going to continually give us updates on the West Coast port operations, which are critical to our national supply chain and the country's economic well-being. West Coast ports account for roughly 12% of the nation's GDP, and a lot of the other world's GDP as well. This port here in Seattle, as well as over in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, are just one of several West Coast hubs that could be shuttered in the dispute and severely limit the supply chain ahead of the busy back-to-school shopping season. It's not just Walmart. It's many other stores that are facing problems as a result of this. Coordinated and disruptive work actions led by the International Longshoremen's and Warehouse Union have shut down cargo operations at all the ports. The second and third shift yesterday, work shutdowns that were directed by the union officials brought ground operations at marine terminals to a halt, resulting in longshoremen being sent home on the first shift today. The union has refused to dispatch any longshoremen workers to container terminals as a result of the Port of Seattle, Los Angeles, Long Beach, and San Diego being shut down, leaving the exports sitting idle at the docks. And it's not just exports. The imports have been shut down as well. There are container, container trailers just waiting to be taken out of the port, and they're sitting there waiting for trucks to pick them up as well. We will continue to give you updates as the information comes available. But again, the longshoremen's workers have gone out on strike, and they're not going to go back until some situations have been remedied, including money, time off, including vacations, and the sick leave policies and other things are worked out, including workers' comp issues. Okay, so they're going to be out for quite some time. Now, I didn't want to report on this, and I've decided to report on this anyway. A man who has graced the gridiron on Saturdays and Sundays in the past, the legendary New York Jets and Denver Broncos kicker Jim Turner has died at age 82. We don't have too much more to say about that, but as that information becomes available, we will talk about that. I remember him when my father and I used to watch footballs on Saturdays and Sundays. Jim Turner was 82. He was a legendary kicker who won the Super Bowl with the New York Jets. He became a Broncos icon as well, and he was said that he never missed a game in his entire career. He suffered heart failure. And this is just one of many people that have done that have had problems as a result of what they've done during their careers, especially football players. Jim Turner played 228 straight NFL games, and he didn't get injured in his career. He won Super Bowl III, and he was inducted in the Denver Broncos Ring of Fame. This was a legendary man, an incredible man. And I remember watching him. Vividly, I remember watching him. He walked onto the football field with his head held high every time. He was legendary, literally. He was a quarterback that had turned kicker. Amazing. Amazing. Usually that does not work. He played for Utah State during his college career, and he was selected by Washington as a 9th round draft pick in 1963 NFL draft. The man was amazing. He was amazing. So we bid farewell to this great man, Jim Turner, dead at the age of 82. And thank you for your service, my friend. We appreciate you. A lot of people that have watched the NFL are very sad this day as a result of his death. He was legendary. He was legendary. I'm sure my father would have been sad if he was still alive. I'm sure they're on the other side shaking hands. At least I would think that's what my father would be doing. Anyway, folks, we're going on with this. Okay? The next thing I want to talk about is President Trump. Okay? The story has it that the Supreme Court dropped the roadblock on the Trump prosecution. What it is there was a law, and it's still on the books, that you cannot go after presidents of the United States during or after their service as president. Well, guess what? The U.S. Supreme Court dropped that roadblock. All other presidents had been allowed to take documents home. Apparently, this justice system decided free and of its own will with the president and his cronies that they would go after Trump to make sure that he would not go on to serve another term. And President Trump is going to fight it tooth and nail. There are some corners, including congressmen, who said that this case is dead. This case is dead, and it cannot be prosecuted. But we will see tomorrow. President Trump is supposed to arrive, at least for now, he is supposed to arrive in Miami, Florida, and turn himself into the federal prosecutor in Florida, I believe at about 12 noon. So we'll hear what happens there. It's crazy. It really is. I've never thought that we would ever have a president, sitting or former, that would ever be prosecuted for anything. President Richard M. Nixon in 1974 resigned after he lied to Congress, and he lied to the citizens of the United States about tapes that he recorded in the Oval Office of wrongdoing. And he left office. He was later exonerated from prosecution by the incoming president. And that's fine. That's usually what happens. Several Republican leaders that are running for president right now have said that they will exonerate President Trump. We'll see what happens. So that's where the news is right now. I'm not going to comment any more about that today. I want to talk about Cascadia now. I want to talk completely about Cascadia. This is a seismogram from Mount Rainier. Okay? Look at the activity at Mount Rainier. This is crazy. I have never seen it this busy. keeps getting busier and busier as we go through. Okay? Every week it's busier and busier. This is Camp Muir at Mount Rainier. Okay? Let me open this up so you can see exactly what's going on. It's not just minor tremors, guys. It's minor earthquakes and upwards of that. Up here at the top, which is last night, this seismogram started recording information at 10 p.m. last night. 2 hours later, it turned over to the next day today at midnight. Just before midnight, at approximately 10:31 p.m. last night, we had a 2.5 magnitude earthquake. That's a minor earthquake. Yet, if we look at the USGS map now, it doesn't have anything there. Not a tremor or an earthquake. Nothing. Okay? Now, I can pull this up and I can show you more and more earthquakes. Okay? Look at that. Tremors and earthquakes all over. How about this one that happened at 1:32 p.m. this afternoon? 13:32 this afternoon. The bottom and the top again cut off. They've been topped and bottomed off. I believe this was a 3.0 at Mount Rainier this afternoon. Look how long it lasted. About 30 seconds, guys. The width of that earthquake signature there says about 30 seconds. And look at the triangle going out to the right after that. That would also suggest a 3.0 earthquake. That triangle is a secondary wave of that quake. But that triangle would suggest, that secondary wave would suggest a 3.0 earthquake. So again, they're hiding information from us. And also besides that, look at the body wave after that. The body wave lasts another minute and a half. Okay? Look at all the tremors and earthquakes this afternoon. It's incredible. So we've had at least 2.2s, 2.5s, and tons of tremors all over. We also have what we want to call steam signatures. Vertical lines without a dot in the middle of them. Vertical lines with a dot in the middle of them are either tremors or earthquakes. The vertical lines without dots, these are so small, guys. The seismographs have been turned so far down that we do not show a curlicue, which would be indicative of a steam signature. But we all have steam coming, all these volcanoes in the Cascade Range that we're talking about, the mountain range, folks, they're all steamy. And we're seeing these steam signatures all up and down the Cascade Range. This is normal. This is totally normal. But that's what's happening at Mount Rainier. And that's not the only place. I could show you all over the place, all over the Cascade Mountain Range where this is happening. Now, I want to show you something else. This is I've got to pull this down and enlarge it for you. This is a spectrogram coming from Mount Rainier. This shows the heat from the melt. The melt would be at the bottom of this slide here. The heat coming from the melt is the greenish blue color there, or aquamarine color. That's the heat from the melt that's rising towards the surface of the volcano. Okay? It's happening, guys. All of these earthquakes, guys, are caused by magma inside the volcano. Incoming magma coming in under pressure, causing rock fracturing. That's where we get the earthquakes. This shows you the magma and the heat. The magma's at the bottom. The heat rising from the magma to the top of the spectrogram is what we're looking at. Okay? This proves what we've been saying about these volcanoes. Okay? The magma's there. The magma's there, and it's been there. And I want to show you something else. This is coming from Mount St. Helens. Okay? This is coming from September Lobe, which is the seismograph that's sitting on top of the volcano, at the summit of the volcano. And what are we seeing here? We're seeing image not found. Folks, I've been all over the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network today, and I'm seeing more and more of this happening. It's not just at September Lobe. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network is shutting off the seismographs, or they just don't want to show us what's going on. It's one or the other. They're shutting them off and not telling us what's going on, or they're just plain don't want us to know. This is September Lobe. Usually I show you 2 slides here at September Lobe. I show you the VLF waves that are caused by the magma inside the volcano. Caused by the magma coming into the volcano, which would show you a lot of magma. Well, guess what? Every seismogram coming from that same seismograph has been turned off. The same thing at Mount Baker. Same thing at Mount Baker. And quite a few other seismographs all over Washington and Oregon have been silenced. Okay? They've been silenced. It's crazy. I've seen it more and more, happening more and more. Usually it would happen every once in a while. But this is insane. It's just insane. Now, I want to show you East Dome, Mount St. Helens. Okay? James Baraka is giving us a $5 super chat. I want to thank him for that. We really appreciate it. Donna Howard gave us a good donation in Venmo today, or PayPal, I should say, PayPal today. And Great, who's our friend Tina, gave us a really good donation as well on Venmo today, and I really appreciate it. Things are really rough with the economy and everything else, and so we appreciate all of you that donate to our program, either in super chat here or in the mail. We appreciate you sending them cards and letters, and then stuffing some donation inside that card or letter, and it gets to us. I've only had one occasion in 4 years where that's not happened, but it gets to us. And you guys using PayPal and Venmo, I really appreciate it. At the top of our program description, you'll see our PayPal and Venmo addresses. Disregard what it says about Hotmail. That was only an address that I used for Venmo. It's not to Hotmail itself. It's to, not Venmo, I'm sorry, PayPal. What you see there in our program description when it says Hotmail, that is to our PayPal location. It has nothing to do with emailing me money. Okay, that's strictly for PayPal. The other is Venmo, and that address is there for you too, and you guys are using it, and I appreciate that so very much. Okay, so James, thank you for that $5 super chat. That means a lot. And hello back. Yeah, that's wonderful. It really is. Anyway, getting back to Mount St. Helens here. This is East Dome Mount St. Helens. Look at the activity here. Okay, it's not quite as busy, not even quite as busy as Mount Rainier is. Okay, but we're still seeing a lot of activity here. Up at the top in the center here, this seismogram. Okay, this again happened at approximately 11, I want to say about 11:10 last night, 11:10 p.m. last night. Again, the top and the bottom of this seismic or this event has also been cut off. Okay, this may have been a larger earthquake here. Just by itself, it would be a 2.0 earthquake. But look at the entire sequence of events here. The entire width of that earthquake. Okay, the width shows it to be about 20 seconds. Okay, so it was a lot larger than a 2.0, 2.5, 2.8. Could have even been a 3.0. Also look out to the right. This seismic event, the secondary wave lasted over a minute, which tells me that something else is wrong at USGS and PNSN, because those events happen and they should not be messed with. When you start messing with them, then we see real trouble. When we see the agencies not telling us the truth about a specific event or many events, that leads us to wonder who is really behind it and why. And we know what's behind it. We've talked about this before. As you can see, there are two other earthquakes here and some other tremors. Okay? That earthquake towards the right-hand side center there is another seismic event that's been topped off and bottomed off again. Okay? Probably close to a 3.0 earthquake. And the secondary wave has also been played with. And you can see tremors coming out of that secondary wave. Okay? But up above that, remember this rectangle looking signature here? This is a magma churn signal. Magma churn signals are typically anywhere from 23 to 24 lines high. This one is 7 lines high. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines high. Okay? That means this seismogram has been, or seismograph itself that turned out this seismogram has been turned down to only show us less than 26% of real world. Less than 26% of real world. So these earthquakes we're seeing here are a lot larger than they're saying here. Okay? Also, those vertical lines out to the side of that magma churn signal, those are steam signatures. Those are steam signatures. Mount St. Helens is venting. You also see two other signatures here in the center of this picture here, this slide. That's typically what a larger seismogram would show. A vertical line with a curlicue on it. It's a steam signature here. And you can see the tremors here as well. You can also see where the horizontal lines are wider than other times. Sometimes they're thinner, other times they're wider. That, folks, is magma coming into the volcano during a specific given time period. Each line here represents a 15-minute time period. Okay? So when you see a thinner line, it's less magma. When the line gets thicker, it's more magma. And you can see this in this slide I'm showing you here. Look down here at the bottom. Again, we have some more earthquakes here at Mount St. Helens. And again, look at this bottom one that's been topped off. Okay? The secondary wave isn't much, but the bottom and the top have been topped off. Also, the width of this suggests that this earthquake lasted about 15 or 20 seconds. Okay? So that's another issue there that shows us that this earthquake was probably at least a 2.5 to 2.9 magnitude earthquake. Okay? They have to be. They have to be. Now I want to go down to Mount Hood. We're maneuvering south. I purposely did not show you anything at Mount Baker up near the Canadian border, just south of the Canadian border, and I did not show you Mount Constitution because the PNSN, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, had screwed with the seismogram so bad that it's not even worth showing. We know for a fact that all the volcanoes are active. We know for a fact that Mount Baker, up until they started messing with them 2 years ago, messing with the seismograms 2 years ago, showed a lot of magma and a lot of venting going on. And I could go back through my records because I've kept immaculate records over the last 4 years. I can show you what those seismograms look like. And you can see that they're playing with them, every last one of them. Let's go down to Mount Hood. Okay? Mount Hood is very active. I'm going to show you three seismograms for Mount Hood. The first one is over at Palmer Lift. Okay? I showed you where Palmer Lift was on the southern side of Mount Hood the other day on Friday or Thursday. Okay? Palmer Lift is a ski lift on the side of Mount Hood. Okay? Now, I'm going to enlarge this so you can truly see it. And they mess with this as well. Look at the top of this seismogram. Okay? Number one, look at the thin lines. The thin lines are not normal, guys. That's when they've turned the seismograph almost off, if not off. And then they turn up a tiny little bit, and all of a sudden we see magma coming down the line. Then they shut it off again, don't they? On the next line, it shut off until about, in this case, this one is at 23:30 on the left-hand side, so this one would be about 23:40 p.m. 11:40 p.m. last night. Okay, they started turning up the seismograph again. And again, what do we see? Increasing magma coming into the magma chamber of this volcano. Okay, and then they turn it down again. Then, about a half hour later, they turn it up again. And you can see what happens all day long here. All day long. Then we come down to this afternoon. Look at this, guys. This is what I mean by altering the seismograph. This is not truly what a seismograph will show. Okay? This is not harmonic tremors. Okay? It shows a rat-a-tat-tat. Okay? That's not what a seismogram should show. It should show even lines increasing or decreasing with the amount of magma coming into the magma chamber of this volcano. This is Mount Hood. Okay? You start to see it. You start to see it at 1:15 this afternoon, which is 13:15 on the left-hand side here. That's 1:15. But then they mess with it after that. That may show magma coming in. But why did they mess with it? The reason I say it may show magma coming into the volcano is that top line there at 13:15 hours. 1:15 this afternoon. The line is thin and it gets thinner again. It'll get thicker again, and then it gets slightly thinner. Okay? And then on the next line, which would be 13:30 hours, 1:30 p.m. on the left-hand side, it's still there until they mess with it again. Okay? The line starts out thin at 13:30, which is 1:30. It gets thinner for a short time and gets thicker again and gets thinner again and gets thicker again. And you can see what happens. And then they get turning the seismograph to a weird setting. And we start getting the rat-a-tat-tat signals. But down at the bottom, I want you to look at the bottom line, the light blue on the left-hand side. Okay? We still have the rat-a-tat-tat. However, look over in the center where that line nearly ends. Okay? The line is thicker, right? Then it thins out, and it seems that the seismograph is turned off from that point on, because the lines after that are off. They don't exist, and they don't exist for about an hour, which means the agency messed with the data. They messed with the data coming from the seismograph. That should never happen. Should never happen. That's Mount Hood. Let me show you Timberline. This is Timberline, guys. Okay? You don't see what we saw at Palmer Lift on this. Okay? Up at the top, I'm sorry, didn't want to bark in your ears there. Sorry, I had to get that frog from my throat. Sinuses again. Elaine is in the chat tonight saying, Ron, I appreciate the effort you put into your daily updates and also for Sunday services. I appreciate you all being here for these updates and Sunday services. I've been on the air for over 4 years. April 3rd this year was my 4th year anniversary of being on YouTube. And then earlier this year, my other channel was shut off by a hacker. And so I started another channel, and I'm back here. I'm only hoping to sooner or later rapidly get up to 24,000, 25,000 subscribers like I was at with the other channel. Because I figure this, the more subscribers we have, the greater effect we have on our community. The more people we're talking to and getting this information out, the more ways we have to make sure that people survive what is happening in our world. Whether it be from earthquakes or tornadoes or hurricanes or violent winds, that happens as well. Not just tornadoes, but straight line winds. I've seen it happen when I lived in Denver. I've seen it happen at other locations around this country. I've seen tornadoes. The Joplin City tornado was one of the worst tornadoes that I ever worked. It took out a town. It took out a hospital. And right after it hit, I got calls from Joplin, Missouri, asking me to see if I can contact doctors and nurses in Salt Lake City to get them to fly to Joplin because they needed help. Incredible. Kreblots just gave us another $10 super chat. Thank you so much for that. God bless you for that. We really appreciate it. So yes, we've seen a lot of stuff going on over the years. We've seen a hurricane. Well, we've seen many hurricanes. We've seen many tropical storms cruise through Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas, over in Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, and go up the eastern seaboard. We've covered that. We've covered fires. We've covered shootings. We've covered earthquakes causing fires. We've done it. Why? Because we have a work ethic to try to help people get the information they need to be able to get through any kind of emergency or disaster. That's why we give you this information. Noble Frog just gave us another $25 super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Saying, hope this helps, Ron. Thank you. Yes, it helps immensely. I want you to know that. We really appreciate all the things that you guys do to help us. I also want to thank our mods here. We have the greatest mod squad in the business here on this channel on YouTube. The greatest mod squad that's around. I appreciate them immensely. I love each and every one of our mods. These people are great people. And they know what it takes. And they know why we're here on the air. And that greatly makes me just feel so good inside. That they're trying to help get the message out. So thank you, mods. James says the greatest moderators. I totally agree. They're wonderful. Also, while I'm talking about this before I go on here, please, folks, hit that thumbs up button, that like button hard. That lets YouTube know that you guys appreciate what we're doing. Also, the longer you watch our program, every program, that also tells YouTube, hey, you guys are interested. Hey, you guys appreciate what we're doing here. The longer you people watch, the greater effect we have on YouTube. Okay? That's just one of many analytics that we have that YouTube's watching to make sure that they allow other people on YouTube to see our program. The other issue is this. They want people. So they feel comfortable letting other people watch. Okay? They look at the amount of time that you spend here on the program. They look at comments after the program. Underneath the program after we finish, the more comments we have, the greater chance YouTube is going to make sure that this program goes forward on YouTube and is seen by people here. And right now, we're over 22 to 23 minutes of viewing time on almost all of our programs here on our channel. I greatly appreciate that. I would love to have that more as 40 minutes, an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours. Okay? I would appreciate that greatly. And I understand people have lives and everybody has things to do. But when we are dealing with YouTube, they don't want anybody to see our programs anyway because of the subject matters that we deal with. But we want as many people here on this platform to realize the importance of preparing, the importance of getting information out about what's going on, because these volcanoes are going to erupt at some point in time. Getting back here to Mount Hood at Timberline. Timberline is a seismograph that's located on the lower third of Mount Hood. And this is what we're seeing. Each line on these seismograms shows 15 minutes. 15 minutes of magma going through the magma chamber, coming into the magma chamber of the volcano. And you're seeing vertical lines going through those, each horizontal line. Those vertical lines are tremors and or earthquakes caused by the magma fracturing the rock inside the volcano, which causes volcanic uplift. The volcanoes are actually lifting up and getting higher. That is typically what happens. Okay? And that's what you're seeing here. Again, there are times when the seismologist who is running the seismograph turns the seismograph off. And that's what we're seeing again here. lines that are very thin that don't show any activity. They've turned it off or nearly off. Then all of a sudden, they start turning them back up and we see activity again. That's typical of the volcanoes. There is no volcano that would have a horizontal line with nothing on it, with no bumps, with no vertical or horizontal lines, vertical lines. Okay, it doesn't exist. Volcanoes are volcanoes. Every volcano is having magma shipped to the volcano underneath the earth that we walk on, inside the crust. There's magma rushing to these volcanoes, every one of them. And that's what we're seeing on these seismographs. Okay? We're seeing it. Most of this is just tremors. Most is just tremors. But when we do see a lot of activity, and I showed you that tonight, and several of these seismographs are recording this activity. Not particularly on this one, but on others tonight, we've shown you tremors and earthquakes. Okay? Last week, we had some earthquakes hitting at Mount Hood. And yes, there was talk by the seismologists that Mount Hood might erupt. They've seen this kind of activity before. But again, the activity went down within about 24 to 48 hours. It ceased happening. Okay? But folks, that is Mount Hood now. That is Mount Hood. Let's continue south. Okay? I'm going to go south to Sisters Volcano. Okay? Sisters Volcano is active. And it's not just one volcano, guys. I've shown you pictures of the Sisters Complex before. There's 3 volcanoes. There's only one seismograph keeping tabs on the activity at those 3 volcanoes. So what we're seeing may not just be one volcano, but activity at all 3, which is sad. And actually, I don't even think it's activity at all 3. I think it's activity at one of the 3 Sisters volcanoes. Okay? Otherwise, it would be all over the place, because no one volcano is the same as the other. Look what we're seeing here. Okay? These wide lines here, this is trash. This is called abstract. These thick lines here are abstract. Okay? They don't really have a beginning and they don't have an end. If they had a beginning, folks, you would see a thinner line getting thicker. A thinner line getting thicker before it gets thick like this. You don't see it here. That means it's trash. It's trash that they put up here. Why would they do that? I want to know that too. Why? Are they just trying to show us something? Make us think that there's more activity there? There probably is activity that they're not showing us. They messed with the seismograph. Okay? Then again, okay, over here this morning, after like 5 a.m. this morning, they've turned down the seismograph. Okay? Just barely showing any magma coming into the magma chamber. Look at above it. These lines here are not really thick, but they're lines here. When it's not thick at all, that means they've turned the seismograph down. Okay? And again, we have one of those short 1-inch lines here. That's trash. Okay? You see blobs here. Blobs of vertical lines going through them. Again, those vertical lines are either tremors and or earthquakes, depending on the size of the tremor. If it's a long tremor, it could be a 2.0. If it's just a short one, it can be very short, maybe even 1/8 of an inch long. 1.2 tremor. Those Some of these short ones are nothing more than 1.5 tremors. But you're seeing blobs of magma coming into this volcano. Look at this down here. You don't see them turning this off, do you? Sometimes they do. They'll have all this kind of activity, and then all of a sudden they turn it off. There's no rhyme or reason to it. When they do that, you know that they're playing with the system. They don't want anybody to know what's going on. And folks, there are people that live around and near these volcanoes. Okay? Just because it's a volcano doesn't mean that nobody lives there. A lot of people live there. Okay? A lot of people live there. Why would they turn it down? I don't know. There is one volcano called St. Helens. We showed it to you a little bit ago. Okay? There is one seismograph that is north of Mount St. Helens called Studebaker Ridge. Well, guess what, folks? Studebaker Ridge is its own volcano. And yet, they turned that off. They turned it off. Rarely do they turn it back on now. When we first started reporting on earthquakes here in the Pacific Northwest, Studebaker Ridge seismogram was busier than all get out, top to bottom, side to side. Then 2 years ago, they started messing with it, turning them down and finally off. Okay? Studebaker Ridge is a basaltic volcano, and it's been worn down over the years by water, covered by water, and also glacial action. Glaciers, ice and snow that has been moving has worn that cone of the volcano down. But it still left basaltic lava there, huge lava fields. There is a volcano there, and there may be an eruption at some point. But again, we may never know the truth of it because they have shut it off or they mess with it. And I monitor this all the time. And when I see a decent seismogram coming from Studebaker Ridge, I'm going to show it to you just to prove my point. Okay? But folks, this one is Sisters Volcano. And Sisters Volcano about 1.5 years ago looked like it was going to go. Looked similar to what we're showing you here, except there was more magma. There was more magma than there is now. They had issued a yellow volcanic eruption advisory. A week or two later, they took that advisory back. But it took a week or two for that magma situation to slow down. Okay? That's what happens. Okay? But there are a lot of people that live around these volcanoes. And when they turn them down, they're not doing a service to anybody that lives around or even anywhere close. Okay? How are you going to know what's going on when they don't tell you? Okay? It's insane. Now let me show you Newberry Volcano. It's south of Sisters. Okay? This is the seismograph that's sitting over on the northeast side of Newberry Volcano. Okay? It's called Newberry Craters. Look what we're seeing here. Again, the seismograph was on recording magma coming into this volcano last night at 10 o'clock. And it continued most of the morning. Then they slowly but surely turned the seismograph almost off, where it's just barely showing anything going on. That's not normal. Magma does not shut down like that. Not only does magma not shut down, but you usually see other signatures there with blobs, where the magma line gets, or the magma line, meaning the time period, say it's 3:30 in the afternoon, 15:30. that particular line would be thicker or thinner depending on the amount of magma. And when we're seeing these thin lines, we know for a fact that that is not normal. Magma coming into the volcano doesn't act like that. Far from it. Then we see them turn up the sensitivity on the seismograph, and all of a sudden you see this activity. You see tremors here. Okay? Over on the right hand side here, let's look at the time element here. Okay? That activity happened at after 5 p.m. today. So about 5:14 p.m. today, we had some tremors, didn't we? And I will bet you we had tremors before that and after that. Okay? We're just not seeing them. Okay? But that's how you can tell whether they're playing with the seismograph or not. You know, and I hate like heck telling you guys that. Because this is a USGS seismogram, guys. The red ones are put out by the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. I hate like heck bad-mouthing the same agency that I used to respect years ago. I used to respect years ago when they were doing decent business and being honest with people. But as soon as they started not giving us information or altering the information, that's when I started thinking, okay, it's time to tell the truth about what's going on. So that's what I've done. Penny Salmon says, I felt my floor vibrating 2 days ago. Penny, where do you live? I would love to know where that was, because we might have an idea why it happened. Linda Covington says it's good to be with like-minded friends. I agree. It is. But we appreciate all of you being here. It makes it all worth it. But folks, that was Newberry Volcano. There are other volcanoes around here as well, all over Washington and Oregon. But again, what are they doing? Shutting off the seismographs. Shutting them down. Let's go over to Crater Lake, for example. This is in south central Oregon. Okay? This is Cleetwood Cove. This seismograph exists on the northeast side of Crater Lake. Crater Lake is a tall volcano, a very tall volcano. There is a lake at the top of the volcano. It's an alpine lake on the top of this mountain. How did that happen? When the volcano last erupted, it erupted all kinds of lava out of the volcano, didn't it? Yeah. Then it still remained to have a rim around it. It was a cone volcano, wasn't it? Just stratovolcano. Folks, that lava settled back down inside near the top of the volcano, probably about 1,000 feet down from the top of the rim. And that lava hardened. That hardened lava formed what they call a caldera, a lava floor of hardened lava. Over the years, folks, water seeped in to the top of that caldera. Seeped in there. Rain, snow, ice, the water table. Now it's a huge alpine lake. A huge alpine lake. There are 4 different seismographs around Crater Lake. One on the northeast side called Cleetwood Cove, and that's what we're looking at right now. The one on the southeast side is, oh gosh, what was it? It's called, oh, this is stupid. Now I can't even remember what that seismograph is called. Anyway, guys, they shut that off. That particular seismograph has been shut off for about a year now. They've occasionally turned it on, and when they've turned it on, they kept it low. They kept the seismicity low on it, the sensitivity low on it. Okay? They haven't been truthful. How do we know that? Because of the other seismograms around the mountain. For example, this one over on the northeast side. Okay? Look at this one. Up at the top of this seismogram, we show very little activity. Again, they've got it turned down. We're showing a few blips here, but if they would have turned this seismograph back up, though, we would really see the amount of magma coming into this volcano, wouldn't we? And that's the case here. Okay? But eventually they do turn it up to a certain level. Okay? This was this morning. They started turning it up this morning here. Okay? Just after 7, or actually just after 6 a.m., they started turning it up. And all of a sudden by 7:30, we're seeing these vertical line or horizontal lines getting very thick, aren't they? A lot of magma coming into this magma chamber of this volcano. And we're seeing these vertical lines, aren't we? Tremors caused by the magma fracturing the rock inside the volcano. Look at the lines here after 9 a.m. Between 9 a.m. and 9:15. That indicates a lot of magma. A lot of magma for about an hour pouring into this volcano, almost obliterating the white paper of the seismogram. That's a lot of magma, guys. But look at that 10:15 line. It continues for about 8 or 10 minutes, then it dies off. It doesn't die off like that. That kind of activity doesn't die off like that. It continues on and gets thinner on its own. How do we know it? Look at the 10:30 line. There are blips on that line. Those blips would have been thicker. Those lines would have been thicker had they turned the seismograph back up to where it should be. Okay? And you see it here. Some of these lines all of a sudden get thick, don't they? Okay? They only get thick because there's a large amount of magma that is forcing the seismograph to tell you a story. But even the seismograph can't tell you the decent story because it's not being allowed to. The seismogram is only showing a little bit of magma coming into the magma chamber here. Okay? Then they turn it up a little bit about 4:30 this afternoon. A little bit. And you see magma coming into this magma chamber again. Okay? That's what happens. That's what happens with these agencies. They don't want to be truthful because if they were truthful, all of a sudden we would know exactly what's going on. The people's lives would be in danger from these volcanoes erupting. Yes, so far, these volcanoes are not near ready to erupt. Sometimes it looks like it. But that kind of activity goes back down. And sometimes we get to see that. Other times, the agency won't let us see it. There are no more seismographs that are worth looking at between Crater Lake in south central Oregon and south over into Medford, Oregon, in that area, because they've turned them off. There is one near Redmond, I think it's Redmond, Oregon, that's actually been turned off since 2021. The last time it showed any activity was May 2021. Okay? So they've not shown anything there. That's sad. That's very sad. The next one I want to show you guys is Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is active. But again, there's 10 different seismographs all around that volcano. This is in Northern California. 10 different seismographs around this volcano. Most of them have been either shut off or the seismographs have been manipulated. You see lines going all over the place. They're not thick and not thin. There's no rhyme or reason for anything. When you see those kinds of lines, okay, that's abstract. It's garbage. Okay? When you see lines clearly like this, even lines with even activity, you know that seismograph is correct in most cases, unless they've turned the seismicity or sensitivity down. Okay? Here at Mount Shasta last night. Okay? Last night. This started off at midnight last night. Okay? You see these horizontal lines. They're thinner, get thicker. Thicker, get thinner. But look what we're seeing here. We're seeing vertical lines. These vertical lines, guys, are earthquakes. The small ones are tiny tremors. These longer lines are earthquakes. Folks, these longer lines are 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes. Still small earthquakes. 3.0, 3.5 are considered to be small earthquakes, but they're earthquakes nonetheless. Yet, USGS did not show us that on the USGS map. They're not showing us any kind of tremor or earthquakes at Shasta or Lassen. None. Yet you're seeing it here. Okay? You can see the magma coming into the magma chamber here. You don't often see anything at any of the seismographs. Okay? You see these seismograms showing almost nothing, or little or nothing. Okay? Now we're seeing a lot of activity. Okay? Yes, the seismograph has been turned way down, but we're still seeing the activity. Now, on this part of this seismogram here, what are you seeing? Vertical lines with curlicues on them, guys. The vertical lines with curlicues are evidence of steam signals. Mount Shasta is experiencing a steam release. If anybody lived near Mount Shasta, you would see the steam being released from the summit of the volcano. And in this case, right here this afternoon, this is a lot of steam. This is a major steam release. And these volcanoes are releasing steam all day long. 6 to 7% of all magma inside the volcano is water. 6 to 7% of all magma is water. So when we have a large amount of magma, what happens? It's coming up from underneath, inside the volcanic chamber, isn't it? It's hitting that plug of the volcano, isn't it? The magma is coming up and hitting it. It's fracturing that plug, that lava plug. It's creating fissures in that plug, isn't it? Those fissures are allowing steam to release from the summit of the volcano, much like this. Steam being forced from the inside of the volcano out. Okay? And as you know from physics, when we have hot air and holes, what does that heat due to those holes. It enlarges the holes, isn't it? It enlarges those holes. So those fissures in that lava rock are getting larger and larger and larger, allowing more and more steam to exit the volcano. And at some point in time, those fissures will be large enough and wide enough, the rock is going to split. And that's when we're going to have a volcanic eruption from the summit of the volcano. Sometimes, like we had in 1989 at Mount St. Helens, the wall of the volcano was thin. And when the eruption happened, it blew out the side of the volcano. That happens. That happens. Okay? A lot of pressure from that incoming magma, and it'll explode out the side of that volcano. Now, we have seen a bulge in the past at Mount Rainier. I had contact at one point a couple years ago with a lady that had a cabin on Mount Rainier, and she told me of a bulge on the mountain, and I saw the picture of the bulge on the mountain. I don't know whether that bulge is there anymore. I suppose it probably is, given the activity that we continue to see at Mount Rainier. Okay? But again, you can see the activity at Mount Shasta here. There's a lot. But 10 other seismographs all around this mountain are either shut off or giving us false data, because the agency doesn't want to be truthful about it. Plain and simple. We go over to Mount Lassen. This is seismograph LDB, Larry David Baker, or Lincoln David Baker. Okay? Let me pull it down to show you what's going on here at Mount Lassen. Okay? Up at the top you see these horizontal lines. They're fairly thick, aren't they? That's a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. Now you're seeing tremors. You're seeing longer vertical lines. Those are earthquakes. These red lines here are indicative of the computer showing us red lines. Those red lines are supposed to get the attention of the seismologists. They're supposed to get the attention of the seismologists. Hey, look at this. This is a lot of activity. Yes, folks, there are a lot of earthquakes hitting Mount Lassen. We've seen 3.5s. We've seen 4.0s hitting Mount Lassen. In this particular instance, we're seeing 2.5s, 2.0s, 3.0s, and I believe even 3.5 activity. We're also seeing these vertical lines with curlicues, guys. Curlicues. That again is a steam signature, indicating steam leaving from the volcano, exiting the summit of the volcano. You can see that here. And the thicker the lines, the more magma that's coming into the magma chamber here. Okay? It's called magma infill. Magma infill. Okay? Now down here this afternoon, you're seeing more steam signatures here. Okay? They're smaller because they turn down the cotton picking seismograph. They turn down the seismograph. Okay? Smaller signatures. Okay? They turn it down. That's why you have smaller signatures there. Okay? That's Mount Lassen. Now, in the past weeks, we have not shown you anything going on over in East Central California. East Central California. That is Mammoth Mountain. Mammoth Mountain. Tonight I'm going to show you Mammoth Mountain. What's going on over in East Central California. Mammoth Mountain is very active. They have about 15 seismographs all around this mountain. But again, they like to turn them off. like they don't exist. You can click on this. You can click on the dot that represents the seismograph, but it doesn't show anything, meaning they turned it off. It's not available. Okay? Look here at this one. Up at the top, you see these thin and thicker horizontal lines? That's magma coming into the magma chamber. You see these vertical lines here? Those are tremors caused by the magma fracturing the rock inside the volcano. Rock fracturing leads to earth movement, earthquakes, and tremors. Okay? And you can see a few here and there. The smaller ones you see here, where there's almost no magma at all on the horizontal line, they've turned down the seismograph. Over here, okay, this one over on the right hand side in lighter blue. This, folks, was after 3 in the morning this morning. Okay, let me look closer here. This one happened at about 3:44 this morning. It's just a tremor. It's just a tremor, or is it? It looks like it could have been thick if they had the vertical line looks like it could have been thick, huh? Especially if they turn it up. If they turn the machine up. Also, look out to the right. We have a secondary wave, don't we? A secondary wave like this doesn't happen with a tiny tremor like this. It just does not happen. Okay? It just doesn't happen like that. So that was a bigger earthquake than what they're showing here. Further down here this morning, getting into this afternoon, they allowed the seismograph to record larger information. We're seeing a lot of magma coming into this volcano, aren't we? Oh yeah. Mammoth Volcano is not just a tourist trap. It's not just a mountain to hike on. It's not just a mountain that they ski down. And yes, I believe there is some snow still on Mammoth Mountain. Okay? Heck, they got 8 feet of snow there, along with other mountaintops in California, including Lake Tahoe. 8 feet of snow, guys. That's a ton of snow. Okay? We also have another volcano just east of Mammoth. It's called Long Valley. Let me show you Long Valley, guys. This is Long Valley Caldera here. Okay? This is seismograph MCD, Mary Charles Donald, or Mary Charles David, whatever you want to look at it, or however you want to look at it. Okay? Now, up at the top of this, okay, this is again where I stress that they turn the seismograph up. Look at all this magma coming into the magma chamber early this morning. Okay? Just showing that half hour of magma coming into the magma chamber. What are we seeing? We see vertical lines going down, aren't we? That's because that magma, folks, caused earthquakes after they turned this seismograph up. Okay, look at that. This was yesterday afternoon. Started off at 3 p.m. last night, or yesterday afternoon. There's a lot of magma coming into this volcano. Okay, Long Valley. This is a super volcano. Okay, then they did a despicable act. They turned the seismograph off again, this time for 30 minutes. When they turned it back on, they had a very thin line, meaning when they turned it on, all of a sudden, they're not showing much of anything because the lines turned way, way down. All of a sudden, they turn it up again. Okay? They turned it up again at 7:15, or excuse me, 5:15 yesterday afternoon. All of a sudden, we have more magma, don't we? We always had magma here. It depends on the stupid agency on what they want to show us or not. It didn't just suddenly appear. Magma does not work that way. It doesn't work that way. Okay? And you can see also other times between 5:30 yesterday, 17:30 yesterday, and 6 p.m. 1800. They turned it off again for 15 minutes. Okay? See all these other times? Okay? These lines remain relatively the same. Why? Because, folks, they let the seismograph be what they set it at. Okay? It's not going to show much of anything when they turn it down that low. Okay? It's just not. Then this afternoon, they turn it back on. They turn it off and turn it back on after a half hour. All of a sudden, we started seeing more magma coming into the magma chamber here, didn't we? It's plain and simple. Look at these earthquakes here. These vertical red lines here are done by the computer. They're telling us that there's a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber and there's earthquakes hitting. Earthquakes hitting. The magma is fracturing rock inside of Long Valley Volcano. Fracturing the rock. At some point in time, this is going to blow. If this was happening all the time, this volcano would blow again. And it's a very possibility it could. It's very possible it could. But folks, this happens. They don't like to show it, do they? Mammoth is very active. It's one of the most active volcanoes in California. Whether they want to plead stupid or not. Let them plead stupid. Okay? Stupid is as stupid does. Okay? Let's go south. I've also not shown you Koza Volcano in a while. Koza Volcano is north of Ridgecrest. Okay? Look at Koza Volcano. This is just one seismogram I'm going to show you. I have two, I'm going to show you one. Okay, look at this. You pull it down. Let me enlarge it so I can show you what's happening. This is Koza Volcano. Okay? Just like is happening at the volcanoes in Washington and in Oregon and all over California and Nevada. This particular volcano also is not just a volcano. It's a volcanic range. There's craters and cones all over this area, and lava strewn all over a huge area here at Koza Volcano. All kinds. There are about 5 different seismographs all around this volcanic range. This one here is about center of the Koza volcanic area. Folks, there's a reason they have nicknamed it. It's called Devil's Kitchen. It's hotter than Hades there in the summertime. 125 degrees or better. It's hot. There's steam rising from these cones and craters because there's magma down there. Now, it's a geothermal area. They have had men there that have drilled into the upper magma chambers of this volcano, as well as some of the others that I've talked about tonight. And others that I haven't talked about, such as the geysers over 100 miles north of San Francisco. They drilled into the upper magma chambers of Koza volcano, at the Geysers volcano, which is Clear Lake volcano. They've done it over north of Reno, Nevada, and over at Calipatria in Southern California, and down in Mexico at Cerro Prieto volcano. They drilled into the upper magma chambers of the volcano to retrieve steam to power turbines to generate electricity here at Koza volcano. The facility is called Devil's Kitchen. They have about 32 or 40 different turbines spread out over miles of area at Koza volcano. 40 turbines all over that area that generate electricity out here in California. Okay? But you see an earthquake here, don't you? On this particular seismogram. This would be a 2.3, 2.5 magnitude earthquake. The red line's generated by the computer to get the attention of the seismologist here. But look here. Okay? These red sideways rectangles are not magma churn signals. These are earthquakes. How can we tell? The magma churn signals would have vertical lines going out to the side of them that would be steam signals. That's not the case here. We have secondary waves going out to the right of these earthquakes. They cut off the top and the bottom of these earthquakes, didn't they? These are at least 3.0, maybe 3.5, 4.0 magnitude earthquakes here at Koza volcano. But these are not tectonic occurrences. These are not tectonic earthquakes. These are magmatic earthquakes. Rock fracturing done by the incoming magma into the Koza volcanic system. That's what's causing these earthquakes. And there's several of them here. There are two bigger ones and a couple smaller ones here. Okay? And that's all there is here. But the secondary waves to the right prove to us that these are larger earthquakes. They can't possibly last a full minute or 45 seconds even and not have a secondary wave out to the right. And we see that with both of these earthquakes. A secondary wave out to the right. Okay? You see a lot of magma here. Okay? They turned up the seismograph. So you can see the magma here. And you see the earthquakes here. Before the earthquakes, you don't see much activity, do you? Because they've turned down the seismograph. If they turn it back up, you'd see a lot of magma that would have created that earthquake, wouldn't it? That's the way it is. That's just the way it is. This is Koza volcano, guys. Koza volcano. Would you like to see ridge crest? Would you like to see a seismogram from Ridgecrest, California? I'll show you one, because there is one. It's right here. This is a seismogram from Ridgecrest, China Lake. You can see what's going on here. Let's go to the top of it so you can truly see what's going on. This particular seismogram starts at 3 p.m. again, 1500 hours. You see tremors here, don't you? Again, they've turned this seismograph so far down, all you see is these burps, as I call them. These tremors here. they'd be larger if they let us see the entire seismograph looking like it should, but they're not. The seismograph is turned so far down that the seismogram is not showing us everything that it should. Okay? But what is this earthquake doing here after 20-30 hours, which is 8:30 last night? Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just after 8:34 last night, we had what looks to be a 2.5 magnitude earthquake. Okay, that red line is far enough long to be a 2.5 earthquake. And what do we see up to the right? That little triangle there, showing it's a 2.5 earthquake. Well, glory be. See? The seismograph is telling the truth here, isn't it? Oh yeah. But then they turned it way down again where it's not showing anything. How'd this earthquake happen? Because it was big enough to force the seismograph to record it. Because prior to that earthquake happening, nothing was behind it, was it? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look what happens here. Look what happens here, guys. This is early this morning. Okay? You see a small minor earthquake just before 5:45 a.m. this morning by itself. You see thin lines here. I don't believe that this is a volcano. I could be wrong. The only thing that keeps us from saying that this is a volcano is we don't have and never have had any magma churn signals. If we ever have a magma churn signal here, guys, we will term this the Ridge Crest China Lake volcano. But this is showing a lot of magma underneath the ground here, going through a magma chamber in the crust of the earth. That's what we're seeing here. The earthquakes we're seeing here are a result of magma going through the crust of the earth. And you can see it here. Okay? Just after 6:45 this morning, about 6:47 a.m. this morning, we had a 2.2, 2.3 earthquake, minor earthquake. And you see the magma behind it and in front of it, on the other side of it. Okay? You see these magma blobs coming through, don't you? Causing earthquakes. This red line here in the center right, okay? It's an earthquake. It lasted about 10 seconds. And off to the right we see that diamond shape, and this top and the bottom was cut off again. This possibly was as big as a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake. I don't think it was 3, I think it was more like 2.8, 2.9. Okay? But getting down here over on the left-hand side, we see some more earthquakes, these red lines, computer generated, telling the seismologists, hey, you need to see this. Okay? This is at Ridgecrest, guys. Diana Large is saying nighty night, Crate. Thank you, Crate, for your giving us a donation over on Venmo. We really appreciate it. God bless you for that. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Also, folks, beyond that, over on the left-hand side on the right, or excuse me, on the left there, the bottom left, look at all that magma coming into the magma chamber. A lot of earthquakes happen because that magma chamber down there is fracturing rock in the earth. That's why we're getting these earthquakes. It's fracturing rock in the earth that we walk on. Okay? Again, folks, what is this? This is Ridgecrest China Lake. And they like to play with these seismographs as well. They do it all the time. When we see a lot of activity here, we're going, okay, decent. And then the next time you see a seismograph, or seismogram here, all of a sudden there's nothing. It's crazy. One more and then we're finished, guys. One more. I want to show you down in Southern California tonight, this afternoon and tonight. This is Calipatria, just south of the Salton Sea. This is a Calipatria seismograph last night. Yesterday afternoon, last night. On the top left it says 3 p.m., 1500 hours. We see 1545. The seismograph is turned down. You see thin lines here. You see thin lines. All we're seeing is tremors here. All we're seeing is just tiny tremors here because the thin lines, guys. Okay? When they turn the seismograph back up, the lines get thicker, don't they? Okay? Not only do the lines get thicker, then we can also see these tremors turning into larger tremors. Okay? Then they turn it back down. And all we're seeing is tiny activity. What looks to be tiny tremors. If they turn it back up, these tremors might be earthquakes. Because what are we seeing here? What are we seeing here? Down here early this morning after 3 a.m. this morning. Okay? These red-lined earthquakes here. I'm looking at that. These would prove to be 2.0 earthquakes. But, folks, there's no magma around. Okay? Most of these earthquakes happen because of the Salton Butte volcano. You see magma here, don't you? When you don't see magma here, guys, what do you think happens? It's tectonic also over in the Salton Sea area. This is also where the San Andreas Fault is. Now you see these vertical lines here getting longer and longer here? 3.0 earthquakes, guys. 2.8 to 2.9, 3.0 earthquakes. Over here on the center left. And you see smaller ones here as well. Folks, there are over 150 earthquakes and tremors on this seismogram alone. There's over 150 earthquakes and tremors here. Okay? Isn't that unreal? I spent time counting them. Okay? There's a ton of them. And look at the times when there's a large amount of magma coming into the magma chamber this afternoon. Look at all that magma. The Salton Butte volcano is real. Okay? But some of those earthquakes are also tectonic plate earthquakes on the San Andreas Fault. It's incredible. Now, my buddy Don Patoka has something here that he said here on the chat. And I want to echo this and tell you what he said for those people that aren't watching the chat. He says, yes, stand for something. Stand for something. Okay? Stand up and let everybody know what you stand for. Don't be afraid, because you will find other people of the like mind that will support you, that will stand with you. Let's stand for something. Know who your God is. Stand up for Christ. Stand up and tell everybody who you are. Stand up for our environment. Stand up for our country. Don't let these scallywags get away with what they've done. Let's hold their feet to the fire. Literally hold their feet to the fire. Write your congressmen and senators and let them know that you are so disappointed in them for not doing the right things at the right time. You could even do that to the U.S. Supreme Court jurors, the judges. Do it. When they make a bad ruling, let them know that you're not happy. They represent us. Those judges on the U.S. Supreme Court represent all of us, not just one area. They represent all of us. If they're doing something wrong, we need to let them know. Even that judge down in Miami, Florida, let them know. If they try to go after President Trump, they shouldn't be doing that. Not now, not ever. He didn't do anything wrong, regardless of what they say about him keeping records. Every president did it. But they just are choosing to go over Donald Trump because they know for a fact that he will hold their feet to the fire and won't let them get away with the crap that they've been doing these last 2 or 3 years. They went after him before he even took office because he was talking strong. He knew what he was doing. He took office and he did what he felt was right for the American public. He did make America great again. But these bozos in office now, the Democrat Communist Party in America has let us down. They're leading us down to trash. And we're going to die in trash if we don't stop it. Make it happen, guys. Make it happen. I want to share a thought with you from the scriptures before we leave. Okay? This is Christ. Behold, I say unto you that the law is fulfilled that was given unto Moses. Behold, I am he that gave the law. I am he who covenanted with my people Israel. Therefore, the law in me is fulfilled, for I have come to fulfill the law. Therefore it hath an end. Behold, I do not destroy the prophets. For as many as have not been fulfilled in me, verily I say unto you, shall all be fulfilled. And because I said unto you that old thing have passed away, I do not destroy that which hath been spoken concerning things which are to come. For behold, the covenant which I have made with my people is not all fulfilled. But the law which was all fulfilled, the law of Moses, was given unto Moses, it hath an end in me. Behold, I am the law and the light. Look unto me and endure to the end, and ye shall live. For unto him that endureth to the end will I give eternal life. Behold, he's given us a promise, hasn't he? But there's a covenant with us. Behold, I have given unto you the commandments. Therefore keep my commandments, and this is the law and the prophets. For they truly testified of me. That's Jesus Christ talking. The Lord gave us the law. The prophets testified of it. Jesus Christ came and fulfilled that part of the law. Some of the law still stands. Keep my commandments and endure to the end. Then and only then are we going to see eternal life. Which gift, folks, is the greatest gift of all of God's gifts. Eternal life in the kingdom of heaven. Folks, I've spoken a lot about a lot of things tonight. Take heed. Watch and pray. Make sure make sure the things that you want to have happen in our life. Stand up and let it happen. Yes, we've had another 3.1 earthquake in Oklahoma. That is oil and gas fracking. Southwestern Texas, the same thing. 2.4s, 2.6s all over that area. Fracking operations. Central Texas, the same thing. On the East Coast in Kentucky, that's different. That, folks, is an earthquake caused by the Atlantic plate pushing on the North American plate on the East Coast. That two-pointer in Kentucky is because of that quake, or because of that push by the Atlantic plate. The Atlantic plate is expanding from the middle ridge of the Atlantic plate. It's expanding. It's pushing North American plate in the north or southwesterly direction. We also have another quake up in Quebec tonight, a 2.6, again caused by the Atlantic plate pushing on the North American plate. Earthquakes here today in North Carolina. I know that. Why? Because my water bottle jiggled today. My water bottle jiggled. Yeah. Sitting at my desk, my water bottle jiggled. No, my water bottle doesn't foretell anything. It's not a crystal ball. I don't have one of those. And even if I did, I'm not one of those people. I don't learn anything but from the water bottle, except when it jiggles, when I'm nowhere around, that means we had some tremor activity. Unreal. Anyway, we talked about a lot of things. Stephen Brayton just gave us another $10 super chat. Thank you, Stephen. God bless you for that. We appreciate it. I appreciate my buddy Demon Cat from east of England being here. He's awesome. One of our mods. He says, thank you, Mod Squad. He's one of them. He's a great mod here. All of our mods are awesome. Diana was here earlier. Demon Catman, Rob, Don. Heather's been here. We love these mods. I hope Scooter Pie will come back and join us one day. She's an awesome lady, an awesome mod. She's still helping take care of her mother and stuff. Hope to get her back soon. We have a great mod squad. All of you are wonderful people. We have 136 thumbs up. Maybe a few more after we get off the air. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys. We love you. We love and appreciate each and every one of you. Now, if anything else happens tonight, we'll be back on the air as soon as the information comes out. Becomes available, we'll tell you about it. Okay? We'll be right back on the air to tell you about it. Folks, as Walter Cronkite used to say, and that's the way it is. Monday, June 12th, 2023. For Emergency Management Associates, my name is Ron Tyler. I thank you for being here. I represent all of you. I'm trying to help each and every one of you prepare for what's happening in our lives. It's going to be crazy, guys. It really is. God be with you until we meet again. I love and care about each one of you. Thank you all for being here. Good night, everybody. See you around the corner.